You deploy your .NET app to production. It starts successfully, but one invalid configuration value causes runtime exceptions. In this video, you'll learn how to validate configuration on startup so your app fails fast and never ships broken configuration again. We have these option classes that we wish to bind to the configuration in the API. Now we've got this static class called config services. We're passing in an instance of the iService collection. We need to register them as part of that. So we call services.addOptions, and the class name is payment options, and we want to bind it to the payment section in appsettings.json. We're going to do the same for email as well, so we'll copy and paste that, and we'll change it to email options, and we'll bind it to email. Now in program.cs, we just need to call that extension member, so it's add configuration options. So the application starts successfully. The problem comes when we run the endpoints. We're getting a 500 internal server error. Looking at the logs, we're getting a system.null reference exception thrown, unable to send email due to invalid configuration, missing the following configuration values. SMTP host is not provided. The issue is in this method. We're saying if email options.smtp host is null or white space, add this error, and if there's any errors, throw a null reference exception. The issue being is that we've set the configuration values in development, but there's no appsettings.production.json file. And this is a problem because the application is running in production. We don't know if the configuration is set until we run the endpoints. Is there a way we can validate the configuration on startup? Yes, we can. We're going to mark each of the properties that are required in the option classes. So we'll do it for SMTP host in email options, and we'll also do it in payment options for the base URI and API key. Now when we're registering these options, we need to make some changes. The first one is that we need to change add options to add options with validate on start. And we also need to do the same for the one underneath. We also need to add validate data annotations. Now when we run the application, we get these exceptions saying that the config values have not been set, and it also crashes the app. Let's set the configuration in production. We've created an appsettings.production.json. For now, we're just going to copy the configuration values from development into production. As a result of setting that, the application starts successfully. If we run that same endpoint, we're now getting a successful response. Data annotations is one way, and we use them in my Minimal APIs for Complete Beginners course. Minimal APIs is Microsoft's recommended way of building web APIs, and you'll learn to build a minimal API from start to finish. To view the course, go to roundthecode.com/min1. There's also a link for it in the YouTube description. Data annotations is one way of validating configuration on startup, but you could also use Fluent validation. We've removed appsettings.production.json. We also want to remove the data annotations in the option classes. So we do it in the email options, and we'll also do it in the payment options as well. Now in config services, we want to revert back to how we had it before. So it's services.addOptions, and we bind the configuration to payment, but we don't need validate data annotations. We'll do it for this one as well. Next, we want to install Fluent Validation. Go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, manage NuGet packages for solution. Select the Browse tab and do a search for Fluent Validation. We're going to add Fluent Validation to the application project. The API has a project reference to the application. We also want to add Fluent Validation.dependency injection extensions. Again, we'll add it to the application project. Now we're going to add an abstract options validator. We go to add class, and we'll call it abstract options validator. We're going to mark it as abstract, and we need to inherit the abstract validator, which is from Fluent Validation, and we need to pass in T options. We also need to add that generic type to the class. And we also want to implement the iValidate options. This allows us to validate the options on startup. And we just specify where T options is going to be a class. The T options is going to be the option classes that we added earlier. Now we're getting an exception here because we need to implement the validate method. And what we're going to do here is we're going to validate the options. So we call this .validate and we pass in the options. Now we specify that if it's not valid, we return a fail. So we say if result.isValid, so if it's not valid, we return validate options result.fail, and within that we're going to add the errors that we're getting. So we call result.errors.select, and in this lambda expression we're going to specify options.getType.name, so we know which options isn't validating, and then we'll get the property name and whatever error message that we're getting. So we'll call error message. Otherwise we just return validate options result.success. We need to create validator classes for each of the option classes. We'll start off with the email options. We'll create a new class and we'll call it email options validator. We need to inherit the abstract options validator that we just created, and within the generic type we specify email options. We then create a constructor for it, and within that we set our validation options. So we call rule 4. We want to set the SMTP host. We want to ensure that that's not empty. So we've done that for email options. We need to do the same for payment options. So we'll copy and paste that file and we'll rename it to payment options validator. We'll go into that class. We'll rename the class to payment options validator, and we're going to be validating the payment options type. We'll change the constructor name. We want to ensure that the base URI is not empty, and we want to do the same for the API key. We now need to register those validators. We go into configure services. We've got an extension member that passes in a type of iService collection. We'll create a new method. It will return a type of iService collection, and we'll call it add options validators. Then we call services, and we're going to register them as singletons. The service is iValidate options email options, and the implementation is the validator, so it's email options validator. And we need to do the same for the payment options as well. So we change it to payment options and payment options validator. And then we'll just return the services. We now need to register that in the API, so we just call add option validators. So we're running the app in production, but we're not getting any config exceptions. This is despite the fact that we haven't got an app settings.production.json file. So what's going on here? What have we missed? When registering the options, we need to add validate on start. So we do that for both of them. And we'll try again. Now when we run the application, we get the config exceptions, and it also crashes the app. Let's add those config values into production. We'll go into app settings.development, we'll copy them, and we'll add it into app settings.production.json. Let's run the application again and see if it starts. So the application has started. Let's run one of the endpoints and make sure that works. That returns a successful response. To download the code example for this tutorial, go to roundthecode.com/examples. There's also a link for it in the YouTube description. So you've got data annotations and fluent validation, but which one should you use? Watch this video next to help you decide as we go through the differences between each one. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.